Hey guys, I'm April from Giggle Glitter Graphics, and I am here with a Friday freebie plus a beginner tutorial for you. Today, the freebie is a Snippet Bits pack, and there are a bunch of little odds and ends on here, and I've been sticking with the snowy outdoor mountain theme, so there's a few words at the bottom of this as well. And I've got some strips for you to work with some vintage pattern paper, and we're going to do kind of a snippet strip slash cluster project today. So if you're a member of the email list, this will come to you in your email today. And if not, you can sign up by using the link in the description down below, and you can have these sent to you immediately. I do have them in JPEG, PNG, and PDF format. So if you have a paper cutting machine like a Cricut, you can use the PNGs to cut all of these little bits out, and that is what I did with mine. However, if you don't have a paper cutting machine, don't be intimidated by all these fiddly little edges. You don't have to have a machine like that to make these look good, and I'm going to go over that really quickly with you. So first, these are printed on cardstock. I find them a little easier to work with. The strips I printed on paper. I used 32-pound copy paper. It's a little thicker than usual. If you have a paper that you like the colors of your prints on, by all means stick with that. I do link my printer and papers in the description down below as well. So if you are cutting by hand, just grab your scissors and just give them a rough cut out. Like, these are stamps, they have little rough edges on them, but you don't have to go around all of those little fiddly edges. I'm just going to kind of pop that right out like so. And then I'm going to use my scissor and kind of rough up the edges on this just to give it a little bit more interest. Now you can leave the edges straight. That's totally fine. You could use, if you have a special pair of scissors, they can do kind of a pinked edge or something like that. They can get this kind of a look. By all means, use those as well. I don't have anything like that, but I found that just using my scissors to rough these up like this, and then I like to use distress ink. So I'm going to grab my distress ink and hit those edges with just a little distress ink. And you can still see the print of those edges, and then you still have a little bit of a roughness on there, and it's a subtle difference, but it's going to bring a little more texture instead of just having blunt edges all the way around. So it's a really quick little trick to bring a little more interest to these pieces if you don't have a cutting machine to get all these fiddly little edges cut out. So once you've cut out all of the little pieces that you want to use from this sheet, and I've got all mine cut out already, we're going to go ahead and start building I'm going to work in a strip format, but I'm going to build them almost as clusters instead of a continuous strip. So I've got my strips here on my paper. I have not cut these out at all. And I have a piece of ribbon, sticking with my theme. This is probably a holiday ribbon with like some poinsettias or something like that, but I like the white and gold of it. I thought it would look nice in the journal that I'm working on. And this is about 1.5 inches wide. It did have a wired edge. I cut it off with pinking shears, just using what I have on hand. And so this is going to be the base. If you don't have ribbon on hand, use these strips as a base. You can print more than one copy and just tear them out so you have an interesting edge. Now I'm going to do that really quickly so I can give you an idea. You can always grab a ruler or something like that to make this just a little faster. Here, I've got a decal edge ruler, and I'll just do this kind of a thing. Much faster. A little more uniform, but that's okay. And then if you have ink, a little distress ink on the edges, and then you can glue a couple of these in line to become your ribbon, so to speak. So you have a couple of different options. All right, and I've pulled out a second one, torn it, put the ink on the edges, and I'm just going to attach these together really quickly using Beacon Fabri-Tac. I'm just going to put a little glue on the end here and stick these together. So now I've made a ribbon if I didn't have anything on hand that I wanted to use. I also went ahead and printed myself a second copy in case I wanted to reuse a couple of these papers in my project. So now that I've decided what I'm going to use for my base, I'm going to start building little clusters all along my ribbons. To do that, I'm either going to use exclusively the papers from the pack, or I'm going to go ahead and pull from my stash, and I have things like lace, I've got pieces of paper doily, I've got some burlap, more lace, there's some darker burlap, I guess this is more of a jute ribbon, some cheesecloth here. So I've got a little odds and ends off to the side here that I can pull from and start layering up with my papers to make an interesting texture. So the first thing I'm going to do is kind of define my clusters a bit. Now there's a couple ways you can do this. You can make this whole thing one big snippet strip and go endless all the way end to end, or you can make little isolated clusters. And I'm going to go with the isolated clusters, so I have little pieces I can cut off and decorate with, and I will be showing you how I decorate with these later on. So I know for sure I want to cover that seam up, so I'm just going to put a little glue here. And then I think on here I want some contrast, so I'm going to go ahead and grab some little chunks of this map. Just going to ink the edges up here. And that is pretty big. I want to make that a little bit smaller. So now I've got two pieces. So I'm going to start, let's make sure I stay in camera. I started in the middle here because I knew I wanted to cover that seam. So I'm going to save this piece for now, and I'm going to repeat that a couple of more times using my other papers here. All right, and I got those torn out really quickly, and don't be afraid to change direction, go at angles, go off to the side, so something like this. And I'm going to leave enough where you could cut between these, so a couple of inches between my kind of base piece and the next piece, because I want to be able to cut these apart later. So I need a couple more things over here. I think I'm going to go with a little bit of burlap here. And up here, how about a piece of my jute? Right like that. I like it. All right. So this is a good start. Let me get a little glue on these, not too much or it's going to seep right through my ribbon and stick to my work surface. Just going to do this with confidence. You can lay out your entire clusters all at once and then glue everything down. I don't like to do that because then I feel like everything gets moved around anyway when I'm trying to pick it all up gently and re-glue it. So I just go ahead and go for it and just start gluing things down. All right, so I've got my little zones picked out here. And now I'm just going to start building more layers up. So I'm going to look for pieces that are interesting. And I'm going to work on this center one here. Why don't I work on these two center ones real quick instead of trying to do all of them at once. So there is that. And then I've got kind of a little background piece here. Oh, I did not put any ink on that. You don't have to ink all your edges. I do feel like it makes the elements pop out a little more. Super gentle. Don't get any glue on my ink thing. My little dauber. There we go. And then I can build up a little more, maybe a piece of, no lace. So here is where you can really start just deciding. So maybe a little P, I like that. And let's try one of our words like evergreen. Very nice. And then let's move over to this one with the lace. So some of these pieces do have things on them. I've got birds and feathers and little shells and things. I guess that's a fossil. So I think I want to use that bird, but let's put something behind it. More lace. You know what? I'm liking the lace on lace. So I misplaced my sewing scissors, so I'm using my pinking shears exclusively right now. That's very cute. I like that. So I'm going to do some glue directly on there. Now, almost all of this material I have picked up at the thrift store, so I don't really have any links for it. So some of the things like this lace, there are a couple things like the lace doilies I did get off of Amazon, but some of the more interesting pieces definitely came from the thrift store. So how about, I like Summit up there. I didn't ink my word or my stamp. I'm so excited to put things together. And it's okay. You don't have to ink everything. I think it just helps things pop out just a little. There, I'll just put Summit. So I think now you have the idea. I'm going to go ahead and finish up the surrounding clusters and I will be right back. All right, so I've got these finished up. You can see I've got 6 little clusters or snippets all done. Now there is a little more room to work on these. I might add a little gold paint or some rhinestones or other tiny embellishments once I figure out exactly where I'm going to use them. So, but for now, these are fine. Now, if you want to make a big long strip that just keeps going and going and going, you can roll this into a spool and have a nice little spool on hand to pull from later on. So that is another option with this. And if you are enjoying this, I have a kit, a full kit available in my shop. It has 4 sheets of strips and 6 sheets of little snippet pieces to play with, tons of words. It is a vintage style kit and you can find that link in the description down below as well. So now I'm ready for my next step. Let me clear up. I have a bunch of pieces left. I'll probably use these in my journal somewhere. Put these all off to the side. All my little scraps of paper. And I'm going to go ahead and cut apart the ones on the ribbon. And I've got some ribbon left. I think I'm going to go kind of about there and then right in between. And then in between again. And I'm going to leave the longer tail on this one until I figure out where I'm going to use it. So I've got these. I can always trim them up more. And then these guys, I'm just going to tear them apart. So right like that. And I'll wait to ink them again until I figure out exactly where I'm going to use them. So let me grab my journal. This is my accordion journal. I started this on my channel a couple of weeks ago. I did the background. Since then, I've added in some of my Frosted Peaks ephemera, and I have some ideas on how I want to incorporate. Here we go. I was looking for a page like this. How I want to incorporate these. And I'm looking for something like that, where this can kind of poke out over the edge. So when the journal is closed, it's going to show. But then when it opens up, because this accordion's out, I want it to look nice whenever it's out flat as well. So it has to kind of jive with the page next to it, as well as provide a little bit of texture. Now, I feel like this is way too much. So I'm actually going to kind of follow petals a little bit on my print. Let's see if I can do something similar up top. Kind of use those as a guideline to create some interest. I might trim that all the way off like that. That's a little more exciting and reveals a little more of my mountain. And I'm going to go ahead and glue this one in. Now, because this is kind of a sheer fabric, I'm going to put the bulk of my glue there and then just kind of spread it a little bit, just enough to kind of tack it down. And I'm going to make sure I'm out over the edge. So this is one way. Just find a page that you feel like needs some more embellishment and place it along the edge. If you're in a regular journal, this will work as well to hang over the edge with a regular page, and then you'll just see it on the back side. On this one, it's going to kind of come out over the page next to it. And then there's a little room if I want to add some more bits and bobs. It's always a evolving process. And let's find another area. Here's a good one. Oh, with all the trees, I kind of like this timberline piece. And I'm going to let this one be kind of a tab over the top. I want it to stick out of the top of my journal, but that's white on the back. So let me just grab my ink dauber. Let's give that a good coat. Ink. So if you happen to catch the back side of it, it'll look nice. And I want that to come right between my background pieces there. I don't know what else I'm going to do on this page. I'm not even really worried about it. I am throwing all my cares to the wind on this one. I definitely got overwhelmed by this project and wasn't sure I could finish it. And I'm like, nope, just start putting things in there. It'll turn out just fine. So there's a second one, using it as an embellishment that comes out over the top. Let's go through some more. And let's do this page. And I'd like to do something a little different here. So I want to make this kind of a focal point on the page. So I'm going to do some layering with this. And I'd like to try, I've got this ribbon. It's some kind of a wired ribbon that I got at the thrift store. I had pulled all the wire out of the sides. And I was wondering if that might make an interesting backdrop. I think I need to cut this down a bit, maybe on one side, and start creating a focal point. Let's try trimming this right about here. So these are all just items that I had laying around in my stash, picked up at the thrift store, something like that. Let's see. It would be really fun if this was a pocket. I love the idea of this. So I'm going to move it all the way this way so that maybe I can tuck something in there at a later date. And then I feel like this needs more embellishment now. So you can see where I started off with the cluster, and then I feel like it needs some more embellishment. So let's go ahead and glue down and make this a pocket. I need to kind of gently, and I might seep through just a little bit. I hope not, but just gently put that glue around the edges. Put that right in the middle. I'm not going to go all the way up to the crease because that could cause problems when my journal goes to fold up. And then I'm going to just glue on the back of this cluster here. I don't mind if my ribbon is a little loose and kind of has movement to it. I think that's very interesting whenever it has movement like that. And that's not even the one. I grabbed a different one. Oh, how funny. This is nice too. This works just as well. And then I sat the other one up there. I actually like this one better. So happy little accident there. And I'm just going to go in and make sure that the glue isn't seeping through and kind of touching the back there. And that seems to have turned out pretty well. I'm not sure what else I might do on this page. I feel like I would like to do something to take up more of the vertical space on here. Maybe I'll even do some kind of panel that hides the whole thing, and you flip it up and then you find a little pocket and have something tucked inside. So I'm going to leave this exactly like it is so that I can come back to it later. So you're definitely not limited to just gluing these inside of your journal. And I'm going to see, yeah, you can see my little bit of fluff sticking out there. Of course, it's white, so it's not real impactful. And it's the only one. It's by itself right now. So, but you're not limited to just putting them inside of your journal. You can use them as embellishments on their own as well. So for example, I have this little envelope. It's a craft paper envelope, and I might go ahead and grab this piece here. And let's get a little ink. I didn't ink those edges yet. And let's turn this into an embellishment on my envelope. It's got a nice deep flap. I'm going to wrap this right around the envelope. Put some glue on the back. And then I'm just going to wrap that right around. Like so. And now I have this cute little envelope. I can tuck things inside and then put that right inside of my journal. And you can make journal cards as well. So here's an example. This is just boxes from food products, crackers, that kind of thing. I glued some dictionary paper and some paper doilies to it. I've done some stenciling. These are pre-made in my stash. And I can just add a piece like this to it. Right like so, and I like how that looks. I think I'm just going to do it right like that. And then I can punch a hole in the top, add some ribbon, ink around the outside, And now I have another interesting piece to tuck inside of my journal. And this can be written on if I want to on the back, or it can just be decorative. I do kind of art journal, decorative journal, so for me, this is enough. So I'll punch a hole in that and add some ribbon later. And then this last guy, I'll have to decide what to do with it. It might be actually really pretty on a cover or something like that. I have this piece. This is one of the Frosted Peaks projects from the project kit, and something like that attached to it could bring a lot more interest. I might trim that up again just to control it a bit. But I kind of like the idea of adding this over top just to, and maybe something else up here. So these are so versatile. You can make up a bunch that fit your theme, have them on hand, and then just add them to your projects. Remember that if you enjoyed this project, there is an additional kit in my shop. You can find that in the description down below, as well as links to all the project kits and the background papers, all of the things that I have used so far in this journal. Everything is linked down below. You can find them in my Etsy shop. If you are not on the email list, sign up. You get a new freebie every Friday, as well as updates about new products, sales, and tutorials. And if you found this content valuable, then please like and subscribe and click the little bell to sign up for notifications. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.